What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be doing my official 2023 NBA mock draft. Like the last couple of years that I've done it, you guys have seemed to really enjoy these type of videos over the years, and I absolutely love making them. And I definitely have a lot of really big opinions on who I think these certain teams should draft and all this type of stuff. But of course, before I get into it, we don't officially know the team lottery or anything like that. The NBA lottery hasn't been done yet, so we can't officially confirm what pick, these teams will have and where they'll be able to take these players and whatnot. So for the time being, I will just be selecting off essentially the NBA standings right now, who are the worst teams and whatnot, kind of in order. So I guess without further ado, let's start off with the first overall pick, which is currently being held by the Detroit Pistons. I definitely don't think there is really much debate on who should go at pick number 1 in this draft. And of course, I will be selecting Victor Wembanyama, who is just one of the most special talents we have ever seen coming into the NBA for, some time now. The fact is, this guy is about 7'4". Some even have him listed as 7'5". Can literally ball handle and create his own shot like Kevin Durant. Of course, very much plays similar to a couple of the players drafted recently in Evan Mobley and of course Chet Holmgren, even being compared to NBA All-Stars in the last couple years as well, like Kristaps Porzingis, but with the potential of being a 10 times better player. It's almost like this guy is being said to be, if you would kind of put Chet Holmgren and Kevin Durant and even Kristaps together, which is just an insane comparison. Some people literally have Kevin Durant as a top 10 player and literally of all time. And Victor, yeah, this guy is, the fact is, he's a lot taller than Kevin Durant, can do everything KD can do, but can guard the center position as well, and just has already been compared to like that Kristaps Porzingis defense when Kristaps was in his prime. And I think people forget how good of a defender Kristaps was back when he was playing for the New York Knicks before the injuries. That guy was averaging like 2 blocks a game as a 7-footer. And imagine what Victor's going to do as a 7'4" guy who can also create his own shot. Now, I know the Detroit Pistons have a couple centers that are trying to develop here and there, like Jalen Duren, and of course, the recently acquired James Wiseman, but this is a no-brainer for them. It just makes a whole lot of sense to go for this. You're going to pick best available, and the best available is by far Victor Wembanyama, who, partnering up with 2 prolific playmakers in Jaden Ivey and Cade Cunningham, just, oh my god, it seems like an absolutely insane thing to put on paper. And if you're a Detroit Pistons fan, the potential of having Victor on your team right now would be pretty insane. Like, in a couple of years, you're definitely looking at, if Victor can stay healthy, you're looking at a potential NBA championship one day with that type of, I think, young core going on. And pick number 1 in Cade, a very good young defensive guard who can also ball handle and create his own shot in Jaden Ivey, and Victor Wembanyama. Yeah, it's just definitely one of the best, if not the best, young cores in the NBA. Of course, in saying all of these massive positives with Victor, there does unfortunately come some negatives, of course, those being the fact that there are a lot of concerns about his, I think, body and how he will hold up in the NBA. He's already had a bit of an injury past right now, an injury history, I should say, and he's only like 19 years old and is already kind of battling with that over his head. And again, I mentioned before Kristaps Porzingis being a 7'2" or so guy who would just be an absolute elite defender, but then the injuries started to come and he definitely struggled for a bit, has really bounced back now, but is not really the player I think a lot of people thought he could potentially be. And again, touch wood, but the main kind of knock and hit on Victor right now could definitely be his injury, history, and I think the issue that he could potentially further on do it. Again, he is a very slim and skinny player as well, who I think will definitely have to put on some weight when entering the NBA. But there is no doubt in my mind, Victor is, again, one of the most talented players coming into an NBA draft. Since Zion, since LeBron, etc. He definitely fits that criteria as one of the most talented players ever. And yeah, whatever team drafts him, we'll just obviously pray for the best so no injuries happen, but this guy could of course be a freak of nature, a 7'4" type of Kevin Durant player that is just, moves like a big man and all that type of stuff. And yeah, it's definitely going to be a really, I think, awesome thing to see maybe him in the NBA. With the number 2 overall pick, though, we do have the Houston Rockets, and with that pick, I have the Houston Rockets selecting Scoot Henderson. I think this is also a really good pick for him, and of course the Rockets as well. I think this is a nice fit, and it makes a whole lot of sense. Scoot is of course 6'2" and is being compared to a bit of a hybrid of Russell Westbrook and Derrick Rose, and those are two awesome, I think, comparisons. Whether or not you want to hate on Russell Westbrook, there's no doubt to admit that this guy was an MVP of the league at one stage and has been known as a prolific ball handler and playmaker who can definitely help his team out quite a bit. The athleticism is very similar between these players, and I definitely see some Derrick Rose athleticism in him. And of course, the potential on the defensive end as just a really good, athletic, young point guard is definitely going to be there as well. I love this fit for the Houston Rockets. I've been saying for quite a bit now, they just need a point guard who's going to come in and steady the offense, be nice and calm, play make, and score when he needs to, and of course help defensively. That might not come in his first season, but it will definitely, hopefully, be there for them one day. And I just think it's a better fit to put him alongside Jalen Green than Kevin Porter. It's too hard to have these two guards who just continue to chuck up shots, not really calm and relax the offense. There's no real ball movement or, fluidity with having those two in the backcourt. And I think if you change Kevin Porter Jr. and replace him with Scoot Henderson, not only does that improve probably the defense and playmaking and ball movement of the team, I think it also calms Jalen Green down a little bit and kind of reassures him on the shot that he needs to take. I think he will get open a bit more with teams having the stress to guard Scoot Henderson. I think Scoot Henderson's the type of guy with a couple years in the NBA on his belt. Can definitely, I think play make to Jalen Green a bit better than what Kevin Porter Jr. has so far in his career. And I think the ball movement will just be a whole lot better. Again, defense is a bit of an issue with this Rockets team. I believe they're one of the worst defensive teams in the league. So again, improving that on that end at the point guard position is also a really awesome thing. The fact that Scoot Henderson has been compared to two former MVPs of the league is an absolute astronomical thing. He has the shot creation athleticism that Derrick Rose had, athleticism that Russell Westbrook had, the playmaking that Russell Westbrook has, and all this type of stuff. The rebounding, I think, is there as well. Yeah, he's definitely a player who I think could be somewhat complete in the NBA. And the rumor has it is he might not even be 6'2" anymore. There's rumors going around that he's actually going to be listed at 6'3" very, very soon. And that 6'2" listing might be wrong right now. So having a 6'3" guard definitely helps defensively as well. And this is just an obvious pick for the Houston Rockets. If they do want to take it that step further, I still think bringing in a veteran player to help Scoot Henderson develop and whatnot would be an awesome thing to potentially do. There's going to be a ton of guys out there that they could go and do, but in trade for. We know the Cleveland Cavaliers previously helped Darius Garland out by bringing in Ricky Rubio, again, veteran type of playmaking point guard who just was able to teach Garland new things and really helped him develop as a player. They're going to be options for Scoot Henderson. I think the Rockets should do that. Kyle Lowry might be up for trade very, very soon, and you could definitely take on his contract and get a first-round pick maybe out of it by doing it. And plus, you could bring in a veteran player who can help Scoot Henderson develop. And yeah, Lowry can help him with, on the defensive end, playmaking, all that stuff. And I just think that'd be a really awesome thing. And yeah, this is kind of a match made in heaven, I think, for the Houston Rockets. A really good idea. With the third overall pick, though, I do have the San Antonio Spurs selecting Brandon Miller. Now, I'm not sure if Brandon Miller is the most Spurs player out there. Spurs are really specific on the players that they, of course, try and take. We know that Jeremy Sohan was a very Spurs type of player, very defensive orientated, and Brandon Miller might not be as good of a defender as like a Jeremy Sohan type of guy, but I think there is a lot of potential on that end when we do look at Brandon Miller. He is, at the time making this video, compared to Paul George coming into this draft, a guy who's 6'9", who has the ability to go from the 2 to the 4 position on defense. He is a bit lanky, but we know that's never had been an issue for Spurs players in the past. He's incredibly athletic and a great scorer as well, and is believed that he could potentially develop on that two-way end type of role that Paul George has done for so many years, being an elite scorer and an elite defender as well. If Brandon Miller can, of course, be an elite defender in the NBA, that will 100% be what the Spurs want and what the Spurs need. Again, the only knock on Brandon Miller is there is a bit of an issue with explosiveness, and he doesn't exactly seem to have a great burst and being able to separate off the dribble. That can definitely be an issue in the NBA. It's a thing that makes a lot of players great, and we've seen draft players in history be not very good at that and not really translate to the NBA. Of course, one being Josh Jackson. There was always an issue sometimes with his, of course, I think, dribble off the first step, and I think he's burst at times, and Josh Jackson would either be really good, with that, and I think his athleticism would show that, but at times when he was kind of matched against, much more elite players than what he played with in college, we know Josh Jackson just couldn't do it, and that is a concern I think Brandon Miller could definitely have, but if he does adjust to that, I think he could be an absolutely terrific scorer in the NBA. But the most important thing is, I think with this Spurs team and how they want to play, if he can be a two-way player like Paul George and put an awesome and consistent effort in on the defensive end, he's going to be exactly what the San Antonio Spurs want, and he is going to fit into their system perfectly. And that's exactly what they need. It's been said that he's a pretty decent shooter as well. And yeah, I think that it will be a very good fit. Again, if he can be a defender, then yeah, awesome. It's a terrific move right there. Being lanky and all that stuff, one of the few teams that I don't think really care about that is the Spurs. The Spurs aren't going to force you to put on weight. They're not going to do any of that, I don't think. And if anything, Popovich is a terrific coach who's going to use that to his advantage and make sure that Brandon Miller gets the best out of it that he possibly can. So realistically, he might not be the most Spurs player in the world so far, but if he can develop into what they are saying Brandon Miller could potentially develop into, he will very rightfully become a Spurs player and could be a similar player to Paul George and even a Kawhi Leonard in the NBA, in my opinion. I think, yeah, that just kind of fits in with what I think the Spurs want. Now, with the fourth pick, I do have the Charlotte Hornets. Of course, it's a bit of a hard one. The two players that I actually was battling on whether or not who I wanted Charlotte to pick were actually going to be out of Asua Thompson and Amen Thompson. And that's pretty funny because, believe it or not, they're actually both twins. But with the fourth overall pick, I've actually decided to pick Asua Thompson, who is, I think, the better defender / shooting guard of the duo. I believe Amen Thompson is actually ranked higher and is ranked at 4th, and Asar is ranked at 5th. But I actually think Asar, he definitely just, I think, makes a lot more sense for this Charlotte Hornets team, and they're both very similar as a player, but I think Asar is just better equipped to guarding that shooting guard position, which I think kind of meshes well with LaMelo Ball. I think if you were to go with Amon, it just might take the ball a little bit off LaMelo, which is not exactly what you want. I think Asar coming into this team and playing the shooting guard position at 6'7" is absolutely lethal. The fact you would have two like 6'7" players in your backcourt defensively would just be absolutely insane. I believe he has a 6'11" wingspan, and just again on that defensive end, I think could be a really interesting player. He's actually said to be a bit of a skywalker. He has a freakish ability as a player who can definitely dunk really consistently. He's being compared to a couple different players here and there. I believe he's kind of being compared to a bit of SGA and Terrence Ross, which, I don't know, you don't see many players compared to Terrence Ross because of who Terrence Ross is now. Not very good anymore, but I think people forget how good Terrence Ross was back when he played for the Toronto Raptors and whatnot. An extremely athletic shot creator who could kind of do really anything on the floor. Again, Asar is being said that he has a decent mid-range. He could definitely develop on it down the line, but he has an extreme upside as a defender who reads the passing lanes very, very well and has extremely good weak side help as well. There's not exactly too much knocks on Asar. I don't believe he is as good of a ball handler as what his brother is, and I think there is some work for him to do as an outside shooter. But from what I'm hearing is he's still a pretty decent shot creator who is extremely athletic and will definitely appear on a highlight tape every now and then, while also just having the potential to be an extremely good defender in the NBA. And I actually think that's kind of what you need to put with LaMelo Ball. He doesn't need to handle the ball or anything like that on this team, which is, of course, his weaknesses. I think his upside is exactly what the Charlotte Hornets need, which I think is, of course, athleticism, very, very good defense, and still maybe another shot creator to come in. And again, if they move on from Terry Rozier, which is rumored to be happening pretty soon, Asar would be a really good shooting guard to play with LaMelo Ball. I think it'd actually be a really, really good duo, and everything LaMelo Ball can't do, which is, I think, consistent defense and all that type of stuff, I think Asar kind of comes in and picks up that pieces. And if you got a dude like Asar who can be pretty decent with the mid-range and, just league average from the three-point shooting and all that type of stuff, that's still decent. You're bringing him in, I think, for his defense and shot creating, and I think that will definitely help out LaMelo Ball down the line. And yeah, if they manage to bring back Miles Bridges, imagine having a team of like LaMelo Ball, Miles Bridges, and Asar. You're literally just going to have non-stop highlight tapes all the time. It's going to be absolutely awesome, I think, for that NBA team. And again, as I just said, he's not exactly that great of a passer or ball handler, but he kind of does everything else really, really well and has an extreme upside on defense that should definitely translate to the NBA level. With the 5th overall pick, I do have the Orlando Magic, who I believe have another first round pick that should be in the top 10 in this draft as well. And with this pick, it was pretty hard because they already have a lot of guards, but I do actually have them taking Amen Thompson. This was an extremely hard one because it's really unsure. I'm really unsure what the Orlando Magic are going to be doing with their future guard situation. They already seem like they've got their power forward and I think small forward locked in with Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero. Of course, their center position might need to have some work down the line, but still Wendell Carter is a pretty reliable center. At that point guard position, they've got Markelle Fultz, who has definitely improved quite a bit this season coming back from injury. Cole Anthony, who I've always said looks like he could be a really good six-man down the line, and I think that's what they're finally using him as, and I think that makes sense. And of course, Jalen Suggs. Now, I don't know what's going to be going on with Jalen Suggs. I'm not too sure exactly what his future is going to be like on this team. I don't think they have really got what they wanted out of him. But if you bring in a dude like Amen Thompson, I think that's actually a really nice play to maybe start with Markelle Fultz, who kind of, again, fits in with this team a little bit, especially with the height. Having him as a 6'7" shooting guard down the line, I think would be a really cool idea. Eamon Thompson, I believe from all the reports that I've kind of heard, is actually being compared to SGA, which is a really awesome comparison. He has been really, really good in the NBA as well. And also, he's been compared to Ja Morant for his athleticism and explosiveness, which is just really good as well. Unlike his brother Asar, he's actually said to be a really good playmaker and ball handler, which I think would be really nice for this team too. He's being said as a bit of a 6'7" combo guard who can definitely be really awesome on the defensive end, but can definitely be a playmaker who can also score. This is, of course, a really good comparison in the SGA type of thing, being called a combo guard who has extremely good first step and explosive athleticism is definitely something you want on your team. The issues are, I think, with Eamon Thompson is he is being said that he's not a very good three-point shooter and can definitely struggle from the three-point line, which is a bit of an issue that could somewhat be a deal breaker for the Orlando Magic, as they already have Markelle Fultz, who's not a very good three-point shooter at the time of making this video, and Paolo Banchero, who I don't think has really been given the opportunity to show whether or not he's a good three-point shooter or not. Of course, he's had to take a lot of the shots and be a big shot creator guy, but I think down the line he could definitely improve on that as well. There are a bit of issues with this. If you have a starting five of Fultz at the 1, Thompson at the 2, Wagner at the 3, Banchero at the 4, and Carter at the 5, there's not a whole lot of three-point shooting on there, and that could definitely scare me. But if you're going to look at a team like the Cleveland Cavaliers, who, again, have a starting five of Garland, Mitchell, Okoro, Allen, and Mobley, other than, like, Garland and Mitchell, there's not really any three-point shooting in that starting five at all. Of course, Okoro has improved, but your guards don't. They're the only ones that have the, consistent three-point shooting going on. And I think Franz Wagner can be a consistent three-point shooter. I think, Banchero with time can definitely be a consistent three-point shooter. And who knows? Eamon Thompson might be a decent three-point shooter one day. But the realism is, if you are making this team and you're picking Eamon Thompson, you're not doing it because of the three-point shooting. You're doing it, I think, because of the defensive end and, ball movement that could eventually come out of this one day. I think the ball movement could be absolutely awesome, and the defense will be absolutely scary. You think about it like this: you'd have Markelle Fultz at the point guard who's like 6'3", Thompson who's 6'7" at the shooting guard, Wagner's like 6'10", Banchero's like 6'10", and then I think Carter, 6'11" or so as well. I think 6'10" there too. The defense would be able to switch from nearly every position on there other than Fultz. It would be an absolute scary thing, and I think that's where you bring in Eamon Thompson for, and I think he can definitely help out with that and just be a really nice player. So I think that makes a whole lot of sense for the Orlando Magic to go with him. Might not be the greatest fit, but he's the best player available, and you can turn it into a good fit. Very similar to what the Cleveland Cavaliers have done with their drafting. They can become a very good defensive-orientated team who is absolutely insane when it does come to ball movement and athleticism by just picking Eamon Thompson. But of course, if you haven't already, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to comment your thoughts and opinions down below. What do you guys think of my official 2023 NBA mock draft? Of course, I would definitely like to hear all of your thoughts and opinions on this down below. Do you guys agree with my picks or do you guys not? I would like to know. Don't forget to subscribe to my gaming channel, my IRL/long, channel. All of them will be getting linked down below. But as I was saying, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.